Welcome to week 5 of our Sew Steady gift guide, and this week is all about precision, and we're featuring one of our most versatile tools in our quilting and sewing lineup. Our universal circles and straights tool and mat makes it so easy to sew accurate circles, arcs, and seams with total confidence. With markings for circles up to 30 inches, plus our essential seam guides of 1/4 inch, 3/8 inch, and 5/8 inch on both sides of the needle, you're getting accuracy for every project. From holiday projects to quilts to sewing any kind of garments. This is going to be an essential tool for any new quilters or sewers alike that are needing that seam allowance support. This tool is designed to attach securely to the mat, giving you a smooth, controlled movement. And this week only, when you purchase the Circles and Straights tool, you'll also get our free scant spacing gauge, the perfect companion to ensure flawless spacing and beautiful aligned designs. This handy tool has a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and 3/8 inch spacing, along with the scant 1/4 inch guide, giving you that ideal seam allowance for your quilting. Plus, we're giving away one full tool set to one lucky winner. To enter to win, simply like, comment, and share, and sign up. Every interaction gives you an entry, and if you shop this week's deal, then you'll also get bonus entries for more chances to win our grand prize, which is going to be our Sew Steady Wish holiday table package and one of our Elevate quilt boxes. Ready to elevate your creativity even further? Take our Sewing in Circles Straights class, which is on our Sew Steady University. It's a free class with the purchase of this tool, and you're going to be able to get even further in your creativity. So please don't miss out on this chance. Take advantage of our deal, and we've got one link left in our Sew Steady gift guide.
Miss out on this chance. Hi everyone, it's Stacy with Sew Steady, and we are here live with Pam. Pam, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me?
Excellent, I can. We have got an awesome class in store for everyone today. Pam is going to be quilting. That's what we're doing today, Pam. We're going to be showing off the quilting on your beautiful Sweet Pea table runner. So this was created from the Accuquilt Die, which is inspired by the PinWheel tool set. And so you have the opportunity to use the Accuquilt Die, the PinWheel tool set to create this. Pam's got a class on the Sew Steady University that will teach you how to make this entire project. And you're going to want it because it's so cool. Could be a last minute Christmas gift too. What do you think, Pam?
Yeah, you can put it together pretty quickly.
Yeah, I love it. So she's using the spinning ribbon templates. Other templates that you'll use, did you have any others that you used from the box?
The wreath, the purled wreath. I'm using that one. And then I used the 12-inch arc for a lot of filling.
Excellent. Well, we're super excited to go ahead and kick this off. So let me go ahead. I'm going to play the video, and then if there's any questions, we'll go ahead and answer those questions after. I did post a link because we have got such an awesome event coming up on Tuesday that I want to make sure everybody knows about. This is our customer appreciation event. This is where we unveil the new calendar for 2026. This is where we introduce a few new opportunities that we're going to be offering in 2026. And of course, we're going to be choosing the grand prize winners and giving away a whole bunch of stuff during the live. So if you are available Tuesday around 10 a.m., you're going to win. Everyone's a winner. And then Pam is also going to be live with us tomorrow because it's First Friday with Pam. Yes, she's got another amazing project in store for everyone. So let's go ahead and have you take it away on this, and then we'll tell them more about what you're going to be doing tomorrow after the live, okay?
Perfect.
Thank you so much. All right, here we go.
For this design, we're going to use spinning ribbon number 2. You have this shape here that you can stitch like a Spinifex and rotate around like a Spinifex, and that gives you a 5.5 inch design. You can use this pinhole here and correspond with this side of the template here with these, and you have your 8-point marking, your 12-point marking, and your 16-point markings, and that gives you a 7.5-inch design. If you use the pinhole down here and this side of this curve here with your 8-point, your 12, and your 16, you're going to get a 9.5-inch design. So the process is to stitch around the template and then come and stop on this arrow right here, which is the 12-point. So that's how we're going to start. Because these are 60-degree and 30-degree angles, I've only marked a center line here, just right down here. I have not done no other marking. This line is for this half of the block. Okay, so we're going to start. We're going to make a half of shape, just a half. And I want to explain something. When I do this, I'm going to come down here and let's see, there we go. And then I'm going to come on this part of the template, not this part down here. I'm going to travel along the top of the template. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to pull our thread out here on the seam between the two fabrics. That's my reference line. I notice when I drop my foot, if I have a foot lever that goes up and down for my foot, I don't drop the foot right by the template. I want to give myself a little bit of room. And let's get these things out of the way. This is a really fun template. I'm using 40 weight polyester thread. It's glide thread and it's silver. I've got a 90 needle and I have my machine set up for ruler work. The feed dogs are down. The stitch length is set to 0. I've tested my tension and we are ready to go. So we're going to take a couple of stitches here to anchor everything down. And then we're going to travel on this side. We're going to come around here. And like I said, we're going to stop. And it's really easy because we're stopping between these two fabrics. I hope you can see the difference in the camera. See if we can get a little bit closer. This triangle and this triangle are a darker blue than this one and this one. So now what I can do is use the template, the lines on the template with this line here to line up where I'm going to stitch next. Now what I want to do is I want to come around here. I want to go on this side first and then that side. So I'm kind of floating up here. There we go. Well, let's get these beginning threads out of the way. I don't want to stitch over them. And now I'm going to come back down and I'm going to stay on this side and I'm going to stitch until the seam. My seams are my reference lines. Now, again, I want to start on this side. And the reason I do that, if I start on this side, I'm going to come up and go down and my stitches are not going to intersect down here. And it just is not a lovely look. This is a much nicer look. When I get done, I'll show you what I mean. Okay, and then this again, there's a seam between these two pieces of gray fabric. And then that's why I put a reference line up here, so I can see what I'm doing here. I'm using a water-soluble marker. It's what I prefer to use on white fabric. And then we're going to move again using the seam as a reference line. And my template is, yep, it's still on the pinhole. Stop on the line. And then this time we're just going to stitch to the end, to the seam line, right there. Take a couple of locking stitches. And I can pull my bobbin thread up. Oh, there's my, I'm looking for my stiletto. It's in my hand. Move this away a little bit, pull up the bobbin, and now I can cut all this off. The threads are locked in, which is why I can cut these. There we go. And so this is our first section done. Now, if I had, let's see, here's the dark one right here, you can see here. If I had come up this side of the template, come back down, there might be a space right here. But by going the farthest away first from where I'm starting, then I get that cross on my stitches and I get a completed design. So I wanted to show you that. We are going to do the same thing in the 6 by 12 inch block here. So this is the block. Both of these are the block. But I thought it would be more fun to do this design, half of it, using the seam lines for my reference lines. It's going to take me a while to get this in here. Oh my gosh, I got it. Okay. Put the pin on the pinhole. There we go. And now we're ready to do the exact same thing that we just did. I try not to move the fabric when I do that part. Needle up, needle down, pull the thread, and then I pull it away so that the bobbin thread is loosened. And now I need to bury my beginning threads. Let's see. Make sure I have a top opening needle. I just heard the stiletto hit the ground. Let me get that before I roll over it with my chair and crack it. Okay. So here's my beginning threads. tie them in a knot. You want them to be 1/8 to 1/4 inch away from where you started so that the knot gets into the batting. That's the important part. So I go right into where I started. Make sure that I don't go all the way through. I want to go into the batting, but I don't want to go to where I'm coming out the backing. There we go. Let's take this pin out. And I'm going to leave this line here in case I need it later. But that's the beginning of the quilting. Let's move on to the next part. I'm going to use the 3.5 inch wreath in my corners of my table runner here. But I wanted to show you this template. So I have a straight line here and a horizontal line, this vertical line and horizontal line. That intersection is the pin and hole, and that's the pinhole that you're going to use to make this wreath. We have A, A1, B1, and B. So we're going to start at A, we're going to stitch to B, we're going to rotate the template, and then we're going to stitch to B and back to A, rotate the template, we're going to be at A1, stitch to A, go back, and we're going to create this wreath. You have reference lines here on your template that show you what you've stitched. You also have the same lines over here, so you can see what you've stitched over on that side. I am going to mark 16 crosshairs on my corners here, and I'm going to use the mini crosshair square. And I'm going to use 2 different marking pens, one for the blue and one for the gray, because I can't see white on gray and I can't see blue on blue. So I'm lining up this seam line here and this seam line here with my mini crosshair square. Okay, so this line here and this line here are lined up with the seam line. So now I'm going to use chalk in these 5 lines. And I'm going to use a blue water soluble marker in this line. I don't need to mark these 2 lines because they're already marked by the seam. So let's go out to the top here. There we go. Okay, so those are my initial 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now I'm going to rotate my template so that the center line on here, this center line, not this little line right here, this center line in between all of these is lined up on what I've already marked, and center this. That's centered, that's set up. And now I'm going to do chalk line across there, across here, down here, and down there. And then I need 2 lines with my water soluble up here. And just want to make sure they're dark enough that I can see them. So there are my 16 crosshair squares. I am going to extend these lines a little bit because I want to be able to use that center line on my template. So let's just put this down here and just extend these lines a little bit. There we go. And this one can get extended a little bit. I can always use the lines below the template. I don't have to use the ones on the top. And I'll show you what I mean when I start stitching. I think that's going to work. These lines come off easily with an iron. So, and the water soluble doesn't smear. So I actually have a little water erase pen that I can use to get these lines out. So this does use a pin, so I need to put the pin in. And now the reason I didn't center this in the border is because my border is 3 inches and this design is 3.5. So that wouldn't exactly work. And we're going to start on the dark fabric because it's easier to see where to pull, or when I pull my thread, because I have, oh, well, that's in the way. That's why that wouldn't go down. So we're going to start here on this line right here. So I'm going to pull my thread at A. See if that's, take a couple of stitches. Okay, everything is lined up, and I'm going to stitch to B. And then I rotate my template to my next reference line. And I want to make sure that I get my beginning threads out of the way so that I don't stitch over them. Right, that's not a thread, that's the template. There we go. Okay, I rotate my, that's too far. Okay, I'm using this line up here, and I should be that line up there. And if you're worried, you can take your spacing gauge and you should be a 1/4 inch away from there. So we are going to stitch away. Stop at A, rotate the template, use this line here, and also I have my stitches that I can line up. Now I am going to stitch up to A. I'm going to backtrack, and I'm going to come to B. Now on this one, this intersection of my fabric, this seam line, that is my reference line. So I'm going to stitch, hold my threads out of the way. I'm going to stitch to B and then come up to A. And now I can get these threads underneath, get them out of my way, rotate the template. Again, everything lines up down here. This is my reference line on the fabric. Everything is lined up with it. Stitch to A. and then back down to B. Rotate the template. To the next place. Let me see if I can turn this and maybe you can see it better. This is what I just stitched. So I need to rotate to this line right here. I can see it down here as well. And then I'm going to stitch to B. Stop at A. Rotate. Make sure my stitches are on top. This is lined up. Stitch to A. And back to B. Rotate. This time this is the line. Stitch to B. And up to A. Okay, rotate the template, line this up, line that up down there. It's off just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch up here. And I'll adjust it on the next one if I need to. Let's see. Oh, no, we're good. Okay. Don't want to come off the pin, but I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. And we're at A, we're rotating, lining things up down here. It's on my reference line. Stitch to A, backtrack, and down to B. Rotate the template. Should be on that line. This line right here. Stitch to B, and back up to A. Rotate the template. Stitch to A, and go back to B. We are almost done. Rotate the template, this line right here. Go to B, and back up here. Stop at A. And we've got this right here. Line that up. And that should meet there. And then this is our last one. We're going to stitch to A right here, and we're going to stop. So we're going to stitch to B to close it up the center. And we're going to stop right there. Okay. I want to take the template out. I don't like to raise and lower my foot right on top of the template. I'm pulling up my bobbin thread. I locked my stitches so I can cut these. And then I will bury that. So bury my starting thread, and I did not want to go through, but it did. So there we go. I have a lot of negative space in this table runner. All of this white I would call negative space. So I'm going to fill it in with some Zentangle type straight line quilting, but I don't want to quilt over the motif that's already stitched onto the white part. So what I have done is I have drawn a line here so that I don't stitch over this. I have drawn a line here, I've drawn a line here, and I've drawn a line here. That protects me from stitching over what I've already stitched out. And then I've also drawn a line here, which is just this seam line. And I've drawn a line here, which is also a seam line. And I've drawn a line across here. The reason I have separated these into two sections is because once I get too far, I'm not going to be able to get through this. It's going to be too narrow, and so I'm going to quilt these two separately. I'm going to start here. I'm going to stitch along this way. I'm going to stop when I get to this line, when my foot gets to that line, and then I'm going to stitch up this angle, come down here, stitch down, then stitch this way. When I get to a 1/4 inch away from where I started, I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to go back and kind of repeat until I can't go anywhere, and then I will stop in the middle. Let's get our threads pulled. I'm pulling a 1/4 inch away from this line and a 1/4 inch away from this blue seam line between the blue and the white. So that's my boundary on that side. So we're going to pull our threads up, go back down, and anchor a couple of stitches. So I'm using my 12-inch arc. I'm using the straight side, and I'm lining it up on that seam line all the way down, and I'm going to stitch until my foot touches this blue up here. Okay, so that's step one. Now I'm going to stitch a 1/4 inch away from this blue and white seam line and stop when I get to my border line that I've drawn. Now when you switch directions, you should take a stitch and then continue. That'll get you nice sharp turns. And here I'm going to stop when I get to this line there as well. And then I can stitch down here. Got a little close on that one. could go back a stitch. There. Come down here. It was kind of hard to see back there. Stop there. Come down. This little blue line here is where I'm going to stop. If you don't take that extra stitch, you can cut your corners off, and we don't want to do that. So this is where we want to stop a 1/4 inch away from these stitches. So if I hold my beginning threads, I can kind of see where I need to be and put them under my template. Perfect. And now I'm going to repeat myself. And I'm going to hold this here, make sure that I'm on my line, excuse my head. Take that stitch. Stop. Go up. Stop. Go up. I don't think I'm the, oh, yeah, I am. The beginning threads are getting everywhere. And now I have a line that I can stop on. Let's see. Eventually we're going to get up here where it's going to be a sharp point because we won't have enough room to take an extra stitch, or an extra line. I'll show you what I mean when we get there. Up here, the next round is going to have to be a point. This one is only going to be a stitch or two. And again, when we come around, we're going to have to make a point on that one. So if you're not comfortable stitching in all these directions, by all means, you can move your piece. I'm going to have to change my needle soon. See here, there's not enough room to do a couple of stitches, so it's now become a point. Way too far on that one. Oh, this is going to be a weird angle. I do not know what that noise is. Try something when we come up here. We're going to run out of room pretty soon. Now, if you're not comfortable with your ruler in this position, what you can do is take your spacing gauge and hold it in this position and use the 1/2 inch measurement here, and then you can stitch this way. Same thing, I can come this way, use my 1/2 inch here, because a 1/4 inch to the needle and a 1/4 inch to this line is a 1/2 inch. So if I put my ruler a 1/2 inch away from this line, I'm stitching a 1/4 inch away from that same line. Let's see, I think we're pretty much can't go anywhere. So we're going to stop right here, take a couple of locking stitches. Because I took those locking stitches, after I pull up my bobbin thread, I can snip that. And then I'll bury these. So this is what we're looking for, and we're going to do that, like I said, in all of these open spaces. Not in here, okay, and not in the triangles, in these triangles. We're not going to do it there. So just in the odd shaped ones. Okay, but the free alone triangles on the far top and the far bottom, or the far left and the far right, we're going to leave those alone, and we're going to leave these triangles alone as well. So we're going to do something else in there. This is the next area, and we're going to use the curved part of the 12-inch arc, and we're going to stitch kind of this direction, and it's going to come out looking like this. I already did one. So we're going to start out here, stitch up towards the motif that we stitched in the very beginning, kind of curve, come back down, and this is a slight curve, but it kind of accents this shape right here. So that's what we're going to do. The only marking that we really need to do is this line right here, and we don't even really need to do that because it's there, but just in case you can't see it, I'm going to go ahead and mark that line. We don't want to stitch over that line, and we don't want to stitch on that line, because we want to keep those two separated. And then there's this line here and this line here. We're not going to go past those. So those are all stitching lines. Those are all seams. So you don't have to mark them. If your background fabric is not white, then it's probably easier to see your seams. This is a little bit more challenging, especially with the ruler on, to see where the seams are at. So that's why I've marked them. Normally I wouldn't do that. I like to use the seams. So what we're going to do is we are going to start out here, and we are going to pull our thread. It doesn't matter where you put this template as far as the lines and things, because it's the same curve. So I could put the template down here, I could put it up there, I could move it around. This is the same curve going all the way around. So you can kind of relax about that. So what we're going to do is come down here. We're going to put our template so that it touches this intersection up here. Make sure you can see that. There's my stiletto. This intersection right here. where this seam line meets this part of the we're going to put our template on that line there, and we're also going to put it on this line up here in this intersection. So this is the curve that we're going to sew, and we're going to stop when we're 1/4 inch away from here. Okay, so whatever angle you need to be at so you can see that. I think that maybe this is a better orientation for me, so I'm going to put that there. I'm going to come over here and grab my threads, and I am going to pull 1/4 inch away from that line. Is that what I did up here? Yeah. And stitch a little curve. And stop. Then I can use my template and kind of line it up on the motif a little bit to get that same kind of curve and move it up 1/4 inch. Then put the template on what I've just stitched. Again, I want to come and be 1/4 inch away from this line here. This is a straight line, so I'm going to do the straight part of it. And I'm going to come up here. Put that on there like that. Stitch back down. Stop. Kind of do a little curvy thing coming up. Oh, it helps if you have the stable tape against the quilt and not against your fingers. I have to stop here because I'm up at the top. Again, a straight line. I can get out my spacing gauge, make sure that that's correct. Stitch until my foot is hitting this line right here. And then I'm going to go this way. I don't want to go up to that line. I want to be 1/4 inch away from it. Go up and go back. And I have just enough space to go like that, and a couple more stitches. That was quick. I like it when it's quick. Pull that away. You don't have to pull it too far. I use the thread cutter on the machine to cut the needle thread because it's just a good length for me when I go and pull the next section. So I'm going to do this in all of these sections. I'm going to do the same thing over here. We're going to pull 1/4 inch away, 1/4 inch away, line that up, line that up. Again, I don't like to lower the foot while the template's in place for fear I'm gonna, well, let's hold those tight. Hopefully that worked. Yeah. Stop. Follow the curve of the template, the stitching, and come back down. This has got to be out of my way. Oops. Kind of got myself in trouble there. So kind of think of this as 3 fingers kind of coming up here. And then follow this. And then a little bit one towards the middle. And lock it off. There we go. And that is how we're going to quilt those parts. At the end of the quilt, we have these equilateral triangles. And there's a little bit of stitching right there. So we want to be careful and not go into that area. What I'm going to do is draw a straight line down here, and that's going to be where I'm going to stop. And I can use these lines on my template to line up on the base on this seam line here, and then I will get a line that is perpendicular here. So we're going to go from up here down, and I'm just going to kind of mark this so that I don't stitch over it. And I might as well mark the other side while I'm here, because I'm going to do both sides exactly the same. So this line here should be in the center. There we go. I'm going to pull my thread a 1/4 inch away from this seam line here, but right on this seam line here. I'm going to stitch up and back down, and then I'm going to echo that line, and I'll be able to stitch up to this center line. So let me draw a line across here because I don't want to go past this and stitch up into this design right here. I don't want to stitch into that. So let's get our thread pulled. So I'm sort of pulling in the ditch. I'm going to turn this so I can see better. And I'm going to stitch up to that line. And then I'm going to stitch back down. I'm now going to stitch in the ditch. And I'm putting the first line on this line. There we go. And I am going to stitch up to this blue center line. Going to be really close up here. And now that should be one away. I'm on the first line here. I'm going to stitch back down. And while I'm over here, I'm going to move over a little bit. I have to be careful because I have a motif in that area. So I'm stitching on top of that motif, and I have to be careful when I come back down. Go up to the line, come back down, and then stitch on this wreath again. Now I'm going to come this way and do a 1/4 inch away again, stopping on the blue line. Come back down. Stitch in the ditch. Line up the template. Stitch to the blue line. And come back down. And I'm locking the stitches in the ditch. And we're going to do that in the 4 corners. So just be careful of the corners that have the wreath in them, that you don't stitch over the wreath. You don't want to stitch over the wreath here in this area. On this one, you don't have that, so you can stitch all the way to the seam line. So we're going to do that in, like I said, all 4 corners. The last thing that we need to stitch out is our border. And what I like about putting a motif in the corner here is I don't have to worry about turning the corner with my border. So I've measured this out. It works perfectly on both the short border and the long border. The first thing I want to do is find center, which is really easy because it's this seam line right here. And I am going to mark this all the way. I want to make sure that I have a line on the very edge because that's where my needle's going to go. Okay, and then I want to go 1.5 inches on both sides. So the first thing we're going to do is 3 inches. So 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2. I can't do 3 on that side, so I can do 3 on the other. 1, 2, 3. And now I need to go in the middle of that. So by putting my marker on the 1/2 inch line in the middle, I can go, this is 1.5 inches. I have 1.5 inches line, and now I need another 1.5 inch line. Go on the other side. This is 1/2 inch, so that's 1.5 inches. From this line to this previous line is 1.5 inches. So now I just need one more. And now let's go stitch this out. I'm going to stitch a motif on each line. I can mark both of my borders exactly the same, whether it's a short one or a long one. I'm going to use this template, the Ford, using number 2 because it's a wider motif than 1. Here's 1. So I'm going to use 2. And when I set it down here, as you can see, the template comes right up to this stitching over here on the right, but because we're stitching 1/4 inch away, it's going to be absolutely perfect. So the way that I'm lining it up is I'm taking the opening here, this needle slot, and the bottom part of it, this side here, I'm lining up with the edge of my fabric. And I'm going to do that all the way along. So first thing I want to do is I'm pulling my thread outside. This is going to be cut off, but I still want to lock it so I can move. And now I'm moving, and I'm moving right to that line. I'm right on the edge of the fabric to that line. I'm going to slide my template in. I'm going to make sure the edge of the template is on the fabric, just at the edge of the fabric. And now I'm going to stitch. I'm going to start by going off to the right. And now I don't need a ruler to do this. I'm traveling to the next line. You can either go way off the quilt or you can just stitch right on the edge. That's going to be covered up in our binding. Get on that line, stick the template in. Now, when you get to the longer border, you're going to want to do it in this orientation, right? Because you're going to want, you don't want all of this quilt like under the machine. So let's do it sideways so you can see what I'm talking about. Right here, the edge is right up against the edge of the fabric. And I'm going to go off. Take my template out. Come down to the next line. Come in, line my template up, and go off. And we're just going to keep doing this. We're going to go all the way down. Like I said, if you want to travel off of the quilt, you can do that. Come like this. That's fine. think traveling on the quilt kind of helps get things tacked down for when you put the binding on. So that's why I like to travel on the quilt. Everything's lined up. Now, if you wanted to do this every inch, I don't know if it's gonna, I think it, well, I don't know if it'll work out, but you could measure it. I did measure this. I didn't just make this up like right now. I worked it out earlier to make sure that it would come out right, and it did, and I'm just really excited. And if you're more comfortable, use a template. And like I said, I'm going to do this in all 4 borders. So line that up and then go up. Now I'm done. I'm going to go off of the quilt, and then I can just cut my threads with the machine. I don't have to worry about what it looks like on the bottom because this is going to be cut off. And there you have your border. Pretty simple, but it's the same shape that we used inside the quilt. So I really like that aspect of it. There you go. I'm going to do that in all 4 borders.
Thank you so much, Pam. That was amazing. Really, really great explanation for how to use those templates. I think that those are some of my favorite templates that we have. And just with the designs, I love the spinning ribbon designs.
Yes.
So I think that they really are so much fun. So I hope that everybody took some great ideas out of this. And I highly encourage you to head over to our Sew City University, check out all of Pam's classes. This class, the Sweet Pea Table Runner, is available, so you can go ahead and purchase the full class and be able to start piecing that together. We did have the huge Black Friday sale. It's over now, but you know that would have been a great time to get your take advantage of some of the deals on like the pinwheel ruler set and that sort of thing. But there are some opportunities that you can go ahead and still grab, including joining us on December 9th, where we're going to be doing some giveaways live during the event. Maybe we'll have a pinwheel ruler set in there, since that's been such a big part of this whole box. So join us for that. And again, join us tomorrow. Pam is going to be with us again at 1 p.m. live. And Pam, what are you going to be sharing with everyone?
Oh, we're going to be baking with our templates.
We're making cakes, guys.
Yeah, we're making cakes.
Excellent. Well, nothing like doing some Christmas cakes this time of year. So can't wait to have that be part of our class. And you'll be using your sewing machine too, just so you know.
Yeah. We're baking in our sewing rooms.
You won't need to be in the kitchen. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. We'll look forward to that, and hope to see you guys all there. Have a wonderful day, Pam. Thank you.